Episode 27, Asking for What I Want. Who else has ever wanted to tell your husband, wife, partner to fuck all the way off? I doubt I'm the only one. Maybe it's the year of our Lord 2024, truly the year of the woman. Maybe it's retirement, too much time together, but I don't think so. I think it's more to do with my naive, rose colored expectations of what I thought a marriage would look like. Did anyone else grow up under the impression that love was liking all of the same things and doing everything together? Granted, you could be bored out of your ever-loving mind. Of course, we pushed that down. But if you went everywhere and did everything together, that meant you were in love. When I first started dating Corey, I distinctly remember we had plans to watch a movie one evening, and he asked if he could cancel. His best friend wanted to play racquetball, and they hadn't really hung out together since the friend had gotten married. My first reaction was to feel a little hurt, but I soon realized that this was healthy. This was sustainable. This was a relief if this could be how relationships actually worked. It also confirmed that Corey was the kind of person I wanted to be with, someone who valued their friends and who was capable of being direct and honest with me. And it was good, no, great, that we didn't have to do every damn thing together because we didn't have any of the same interests at all. Our backgrounds were radically different. My dad died before my fourth birthday. My mom remarried, and we moved numerous times, eventually landing on an isolated, no TV, no phone, 62-acre goat farm in Illinois. I attended a very small fundamentalist Christian school where I studied hard and got A's. I never drank. I never did drugs. In my spare time, I read and I traveled. Corey grew up in a nuclear family in Iowa City, Iowa. He lived in the same home on Spruce Street and went to school with the same kids from kindergarten through high school. He played sports. He worked as a shuttle driver at a car dealership. He bowled, hunted, fished, drank, and played softball for fun. What drew me to Corey was who he was as a person: smart, kind, thoughtful, easygoing, extroverted, happy-go-lucky, trusting, solid, how he made me laugh, and how everyone who knew him adored him. They still do. And he's still that same wonderful person. He balances out my anxious, overthinking, deeply damaged, introverted self in ways I didn't realize I needed until I met him. Fast forward to today. We live in a 727 square foot condo with two cats. Neither of us works outside of our home. If you would have asked me 30 years ago if I could ever have done this, I would have said, hell no. So, how did we get here? When we moved to Portland, we lived in a 1,450 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch style home in the burbs with a beautiful backyard and a patio. He worked nights. At first, I worked mornings. Eventually, between multiple part-time jobs, I worked almost full time. I remember being congratulated on our anniversaries and joking that the secret to a happy marriage was that he worked nights, so I only really saw him on weekends. I was only half joking. As the kids got older and our eldest headed off to college, Corey switched from nights to days, and it was exactly the kind of adjustment you might imagine. Both to our bank account, you get paid a shift differential to work nights, and to becoming reacquainted. Corey's first evening home, he sat down on the couch after dinner and he asked, "So, what do we do now?" I looked at him and responded, "It's not nearly as exciting as you might have been led to believe." And I turned on Grey's Anatomy. When we made the decision to downsize and move to Portland from the burbs, it was a BFD for many reasons, mostly because we knew we'd be living in a smaller space. 6 months later, I brought up the topic again because although I was throwing out household items with reckless abandon, Corey just kept putting off sorting through any of his things. So we had to come to Jesus, as we often do. We ended up doubling down on our decision to move, and he began downsizing in earnest. A year later, we lived downtown. Corey still worked full-time at the hospital, and I work with clients from my home office. So despite the close quarters at home, we were apart all day. Even during the pandemic, when most folks experienced their first exposure to a ton of time together, we didn't have that. The hospital didn't shut down, and Corey didn't miss a day of work. After 26 years, he left Providence and took a job where he was able to work from home 2 days a week, which meant I could count on him being out of the house Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. As you all know, in June he retired and he was home full time. People ask me all the time, how's it going? And I say good or whatever, but it's definitely been an adjustment. I'm an introvert. I need my alone time. He's always here. Well, not always, but there's not a day of the week, let alone 3, where I can count on him being gone. I can't count on when he'll be gone. Looking back, I never learned growing up how to have a healthy relationship. Does anyone? So for 30 years, I've been winging it. We've had a handful of fights, mostly though, if we disagree, we just bicker, or I should say, I bicker. I'm not proud of it. When I'm unhappy with Corey, it's because I've expected that he'd anticipate my needs or magically know what needed to be done, and he'd just do it. Silly, right? And yet I can honestly say that we were together for 4 years before I even realized this. And it's not like realizing it and doing something about it happened overnight, but I've gotten better over the years about asking for what I want. There's also the part where, because he's worked full time at a very stressful job for many years, I've taken on all things household. Add to that the purchase of the condo, it's a lot. So he retired, and it has felt to me like I've continued to do all of the things. Too much labor, seen and unseen. Since I've realized this, I've begun offloading to him. Making the transition to retirement can't have been easy for him either, especially since I'm handing him all sorts of work to do and he's having to learn new things. Of course, it doesn't help that I'm critical of how he does these things. I see this and I'm trying to stop. Last week we went to Porcano and I made an ask. I need one morning a week when I know for sure that you'll be out of the house for 3 hours. Can you do that? Of course. Jesus, why didn't I ask sooner? And why do I feel bad, almost guilty about asking this time? I don't know, but it probably has something to do with that naive childhood expectation we started with. So he's at the gym as I record this, and yes, it's so much easier. Now I'm thinking I need to ask for another day. That's it for this week. I have to tell you that last week's podcast on things I wish I would have known at 19 resonated with so many of you. Thank you all for the feedback. I appreciate you listening to My Act 4 and sharing the podcast with a friend. I'll see you next week.